5 people seated at a table in a dark basement, holding hands in total silence, patiently waiting until it happens. Faint lights begin erupting around them, steadily glowing brighter and moving around the room, objects manifesting out of thin air. Shortly thereafter, voices begin muttering in the room, and otherworldly figures make themselves known. In 1993, in this quiet corner of rural England, an extraordinary series of experiments began that would challenge our understanding of life, death, and the possibility of communication with the beyond. The Scole Experiments. The Society for Physical Research, founded in 1882, had spent over a century investigating claims of paranormal phenomena. By 1994, they had developed a reputation for rigorous skepticism and scientific methodology. It was in 1994 that reports reached the Society of remarkable phenomena occurring in a farmhouse in Norfolk. A group led by Robin Foy was claiming to produce physical mediumship on an unprecedented scale. The Scole Experimental Group consisted of 4 primary members, Robin Foy and his wife Sandra, along with mediums Alan Bennett and Diana Bennett. They had been meeting regularly in the cellar of the Scole farmhouse, reporting phenomena that defied conventional explanation. Professor Arthur Ellison, an electrical engineer and past president of the Society for Physical Research, was selected as one of the primary investigators. Montague Keene, a journalist and longtime member of the SPR Council for 55 years, brought decades of experience investigating paranormal claims. Professor David Fontana, a psychologist from Cardiff University and fellow of the British Psychological Society, completed the primary investigation team. These 3 men, each distinguished in their respective fields, would spend the next 5 years documenting what they encountered. Their investigation would become one of the most comprehensive studies of alleged physical mediumship in modern times.
Physical mediumship is entirely different from mental mediumship because everybody that's present at the time can witness what's happening. Such as if a voice comes from mid-air, everybody can hear and converse with the voice.
Very nice. Nice of you to have us here.
If a spirit person manifests, everybody can see what happens.
I think it's fair to say that when you have sittings with physical groups as successful as the Scole Group, you will see miracles. You see things which cannot be explained under normal laws of science.
Dinah and Alan Bennett have also been participating in physical mediumship for many years, and in 1992 joined the Foys to form the Scole Experimental Group. According to the Foys, it was the exceptional mediumship abilities of the Bennetts that made the greatest contribution to the Scole experiments. The Scole Group and researchers said they were able to conduct extensive conversations with this group of spirits through a process called trance mediumship. In this specialized form of mediumship, the dead can speak to the living, it is claimed, by using the larynx of the entranced medium.
When the voices came through the mediums, which they normally did, the voices were quite different from those of the mediums themselves. And the personalities behind the voices were not only quite different, but were very consistent. Even the accents were.
Thank you for your warm appreciation of what we're trying to do.
Emily, when did you live on the earth?
Oh, a long time ago now.
19th century?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bradshaw, who was a very commanding figure, a lady of the upper class Victorian or Edwardian lady.
Things sometimes were a little tense, and it was Patrick's job to be there and to get everyone in a joyful mood.
Good evening to you. Hello, Patrick. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. I never heard such a commotion before. Such a carrying on. No, it's all right. I'm only joking.
The investigators documented numerous categories of phenomena during their 5-year study. These included visual manifestations of light, often described as moving orbs or luminous points, that appeared to respond intelligently to requests. Audio phenomena were extensively recorded. Voices speaking in multiple languages, including German, were captured on tape. These voices claimed to be communications from deceased individuals. Physical object manifestations, known as apports, were regularly reported. Items allegedly materialized from nowhere. crystals, coins, jewelry, and other objects that were said to be gifts from the spirit world. Perhaps most remarkably, images appeared on sealed, unexposed photographic film. The investigators brought their own film in sealed containers, yet images would appear on the film after sessions. Faces, symbols, and even what appeared to be handwriting. The film phenomenon became a particular focus of the study.
To put a totally unopened Polaroid 35mm film just in its plastic container on the table during our sessions. At the end of the session, if the spirit team felt that they'd achieved a result, we were asked to develop it.
As the film was Polaroid, it could be developed immediately in a special processing machine.
You can imagine our surprise when we brought this film up, they'd never been opened, put it through the processor and viewed it, and there was images and faces and writing. How do you explain it was there, you know?
I'm 100% certain that the film I selected was the same film that was returned to me at the end of the session.
The film was immediately processed in front of him.
The first few frames, there was nothing on there, it was blank, completely blank. But halfway along the film, we could see a Latin statement. The spirit team had said that they'd worked on the film and that they produced something for us, and lo and behold, there it was.
Since the events at Scole were so bizarre and unusual, the group knew that without careful, independent scrutiny, their experiments would probably be dismissed as a hoax. Therefore, the Foys and Bennetts allowed their experiments to be rigorously monitored by a team of internationally renowned scientists, as well as veteran paranormal investigators who were members of the Society for Psychical Research, or SPR, based in London. For over a century, the SPR has specialised in examining paranormal phenomena in an unbiased and scientific way. Among its members and past presidents have been some of Britain's most accomplished scientists, including a dozen Nobel laureates.
The Society for Psychical Research has an extraordinarily notorious reputation for being scientifically rigorous, and many people consider that it goes overboard in its scepticism.
In 1995, the SPR investigators began an exhaustive 2-year investigation into Scole. By 1999, they had published their findings in this detailed report. One of its authors and a leading researcher into Scole was the late Montague Keane, an SPR member since the 1940s. Keane was a veteran investigator of paranormal claims.
We consider that extraordinary things do require a much higher level of authenticity than would normally be required for things within the scientific paradigm. Initially, we were all pretty sceptical because what had been claimed seemed so way out.
Another key researcher was the late Dr. Arthur Ellison, an emeritus professor of electrical engineering and a former president of the SPR.
When a second-rate scientist says that this could not possibly happen, and many do in connection with the paranormal, they are saying, in effect, that our current set of scientific models are the last word. And it would be ridiculous to say that. Scientific theories, descriptions change all the time, and we must expect that to continue.
The paranormal is that mysterious area behind the seen and the known world. And since most of the world is unseen and unknown, and most of the world is full of mystery, for me it's a fascinating and absorbing area.
Images appeared on the film that had been sealed in containers and had never been exposed to light. Some images were of historical figures, others appeared to be faces unknown to the participants. Tables and chairs were observed to move without any apparent physical cause. A heavy glass dome was reported to levitate during sessions. Participants described feeling touches from unseen hands and experiencing unexplained breezes in the sealed cellar. Electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, were extensively documented. Recording equipment captured voices and sounds that were not audible to participants during the sessions but appeared clearly on playback. The SPR investigators insisted on scientific conditions for their study. They examined the cellar thoroughly for any hidden apparatus or mechanisms that could produce the reported phenomena. Sessions were conducted in complete darkness, as the mediums claimed that light interfered with the phenomena. However, the investigators were permitted to use infrared equipment and to make detailed audio recordings. Over the course of 5 years, the team attended dozens of sessions, meticulously documenting their observations. They brought their own equipment, controlled the conditions as much as possible within the constraints of the alleged phenomena. In November of 1999, the investigators published their findings in a comprehensive 452-page report that occupied the entirety of that month's proceedings at the Society for Psychical Research. The report detailed every session attended, every phenomenon witnessed, and every piece of evidence collected. It represented one of the most thorough investigations into alleged physical mediumship ever conducted. The 3 investigators concluded that they had encountered evidence favoring the hypothesis of survival of consciousness after death. They stated that they found no evidence of fraud or deception on the part of the Scole Group. The investigators noted that the Scole Group had no apparent motive for fraud. They received only nominal compensation for their participation and often worked without any payment at all. They had even declined opportunities that could have brought them greater financial gain. However, the reports were not universally accepted within the Society for Psychical Research. Dissenting views by other SPR attendees were published in appendices to the main report. Critics within the SPR raised concerns about the investigation methodology. They questioned whether sufficient controls had been in place to definitively rule out sophisticated trickery. The investigation faced inherent limitations. The phenomena reportedly only occurred in complete darkness, making visual verification impossible. The investigators were not permitted to use certain types of detection equipment, as the mediums claimed it would interfere with the manifestations. Many phenomena were documented only through audio recordings and written testimonies. Without visual evidence, the assessment of these events relied heavily on the credibility and observational skills of the witnesses. By 1998, the phenomena at Scole had ceased. The alleged spirit communicators claimed that negative influences were interfering with their ability to produce manifestations. When investigators attempted to implement stricter controls, the phenomena stopped occurring entirely. Critics argued that the complete stop of phenomena when stricter controls were proposed was highly significant. They suggested this pattern is commonly observed in cases where paranormal claims do not withstand rigorous scientific testing. The Scole Experiments remain one of the most extensively documented investigations into alleged physical mediumship in the modern era. The case continues to be studied and debated by researchers, skeptics, and believers alike. The investigation highlighted both the possibilities of the limitations of studying alleged paranormal phenomena under field conditions. It demonstrated the challenges of maintaining scientific rigor while accommodating the claimed requirements of psychic manifestations. The Scole Experiments raised more questions than they answered. Did the investigators witness genuine communication with the deceased? Were the phenomena the result of unknown natural processes? Or were they the product of unconscious psychological factors and observational limitations? The extensive documentation from the Scole Experiments remains available for analysis. The 452-page report, hours of audio recordings, and hundreds of photographs continue to be studied by researchers attempting to understand what occurred in the Norfolk farmhouse. The question of survival after death remains one of humanity's greatest mysteries. The Scole Experiments represent one chapter in the ongoing scientific investigation of this fundamental question. Whether the phenomena at Scole represented genuine contact with the deceased, unknown natural processes, or sophisticated deception may never be definitively determined, but the 5-year investigation stands as a remarkable example of the attempt to apply scientific methodology to questions that have puzzled humanity since the dawn of consciousness. Thanks for watching another episode of the Horror Expo, and I appreciate your time. If you enjoy videos like this, please consider giving it a like and subscribing, because every little bit helps. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.